Every Breath You Take is a bit of a slow psychological thriller movie, but when it gets going, it gets going. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. In this video we are going to be reviewing Every Breath You Take, which is a psychological thriller movie with a truly star-studded cast in this movie. Now it is a little bit of a slow burn movie, but it really does have a truly explosive ending in this movie. I really also like how it's taking you down one path and then suddenly and quite literally takes you down a very different path and has a truly killer twist in this movie as well. Now, like I said, it does have a bit of a slow start and you do have to be a bit patient and bear with it while it's setting everything up. But like I said, by the second half of this movie, it really is truly groundbreaking and very gripping as well. And you're really with all of these characters as they find themselves in really intense situations, which is really, really shocking. And I'm going to be breaking it all down for you in this movie review. So the storyline in this movie definitely feels a lot more grounded and a lot more real rather than being over the top and unrealistic. So the plot centers around a psychiatrist, and one day he is helping a patient out with various different challenges, and actually he's quite successful in helping this patient overcome a lot of her challenges. One day, however, unfortunately she commits suicide, which leads to the patient's brother vowing revenge on the psychiatrist by quite literally tearing his life apart from the inside out by involving his wife and his daughter as well. Now, like I said, this movie isn't that glossy or escapist and is a lot more gritty, and as a result you really get to see the impact and the effect of this brother character on all of the other characters' lives, which is really, really interesting and really, really fascinating as well. Now, from a positives point of view, this movie is really well structured, as like I mentioned before, it does initially take you down one path and you're thinking, you know, which character's side are you on? You can really understand it from different characters' perspectives as well. But then, like I said, it does have a really interesting killer twist in this movie that really makes you change everything, which is really, really great. Also, I think it deals with really interesting themes in this movie as well, as the psychiatrist has himself gone through something very tragic, and it really begs the question, should he even be in this profession, where he's even going outside of the rule book and trying to help all of his patients. Also, it really examines grief and how people deal with this. For example, shutting certain characters out, blaming certain characters for actions that were outside of their control. Really, really interesting themes. Also, you could categorize the psychiatrist as being a bit of a nice guy and the brother being a bit of a bad guy, and the way that he abuses and manipulates him as a result of it, I think, is really, really fascinating. And also the concept of forgiveness, both in terms of forgiving yourself and with other people and really dealing with your emotions, is just dealt with really, really well in this movie. And as such, all of the character arcs across this movie are not only really layered, but they actually go on really interesting journeys across this short movie, which is really, really great. And also, like I said before, you do kind of flip which character you are supporting across this movie, which really does show that the script is written really, really well. However, from a negatives point of view, like I mentioned before as well, the first bit of this movie is a little bit slow, so you do have to bear with it. But then when it does get going, it's truly, really gripping. And also, like I said before, it is a lot more grounded, so it is a lot more gritty and less glamorous than maybe other movies are. But you know, all in all, from a storyline point of view, I think this movie is pretty solid. So from a cast and characters point of view, like I mentioned before, this movie does have a truly star-studded cast attached to this film, and it always did do, as in the beginning there was going to be a time where Zac Efron and Harrison Ford were both going to be attached to this movie. That didn't end up happening, but still there is a really great cast in this movie, so let's go through them one by one. So first up we have Affleck, who is playing the psychiatrist, Dr. Philip, who is trying really, really hard to help all of his patients. He may well go outside of the rule book for this, but he is trying as much as he can to do the right thing by all of his patients. However, this brother character is quite literally turning his life upside down. Now, what I would say about Affleck's particular performance in this movie is that he really does play the Dr. Philip character in a really monotone way. So at some points, just hearing this character can be a little bit boring at certain points, but given what this character has gone through, you can understand why he is now behaving this particular way. By contrast, we then have Sam Claflin, who is playing the James character, who is the brother to the patient that committed suicide. And you really do get to see the full breadth and range of Sam's acting abilities, as he's playing so many different emotions in this movie, and he really does deliver so brilliantly on all of them, as you can really understand and empathize and see where this character is coming from, and you can understand why he's behaving the way that he does. And he does a really great job in all of the action sequences in this movie as well. Next up we have Michelle Monaghan, who is playing the Grace character. She is married to the Dr. Philip character, but is in a bit of a somewhat empty marriage, as they don't really communicate, as unfortunately for these two characters, there was a bit of a tragic event that happened really early on in their relationship, and as such it's never really been the same again. And you can really see from this character's perspective how she's going to deal with certain events that happen in this movie. Next up we have India Eisley, who is playing the Lucy character, the neglected daughter from Dr. Philip and the Grace character, and you can really see what's happening to this character when she gets really easily manipulated by the evil James brother character. And then finally we also have Emily Alyn Lind, who is playing the Daphne character, who unfortunately is the one that commits suicide in this movie. But you know, for the scenes that she is in, Emily Alyn Lind does a really good job in this movie. So from a cast and characters point of view, they are actually pretty decent in every breath you take. So from a visuals point of view, like I said before, this movie is a lot more grounded and a lot more realistic in its visuals aesthetic. I would say it really does do a good job in really making you feel uncomfortable and having a chill down your spine, especially when you get to see how calculating and manipulative the James character is. And also in the final few moments in this movie, this film really does up its intensity, which is really great. And so from a visuals point of view, I'd say this movie is actually pretty decent. In terms of comparisons, whilst it does definitely do its own thing and tell its own particular narrative, I think you can definitely compare it from a slow burn and realism point of view, for example to The Lie, which by the way it's very similar to in terms of how it tells a particular story. Also you can compare it to Run, The Invitation, and to Sightless as well. And also I think it borrows certain elements as well from Unhinged and from Clinical as well. And even though it doesn't have a bit of a jilted ex-lover narrative in here, I would say you can also compare it to The Boy Next Door and to Fatal Affair in terms of having a bit of a psychotic character that is truly relentless in making a particular character's life very difficult and is really hell-bent on that particular mission. And so from a comparison point of view, I think it borrows from quite a lot of other movies. So overall, I wasn't sure what to think of Every Breath You Take in the beginning, as it had a little bit of a slow start and the main lead character's voice was really monotone in this movie. However, I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised as the movie went on, and I really like the twist at the end and also the way that it really does come full circle in this movie as well. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.